Welcome to Life in Real Time with Lucia, the podcast where we capture the essence of raw, unfiltered conversations and where we will dive deep into the journey of life. No topic is off limits here, and things can get real, really real. This is your space for open, honest, and sometimes messy discussions about everything that life throws our way. The good, the bad, and the downright chaotic. Some episodes will be unscripted, where anything can happen, and others will be carefully crafted to explore thought-provoking themes. A fair warning, though, that this is rated adult, and yes, that means that the language might get a little colorful at times, but hey, that's life in real time, right? So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and join me on this unpredictable adventure through life's ups and downs, and everything in between. Let's keep it raw, keep it real, and above all, let's keep it honest. I'm Lucia, and this is Life in Real Time. Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Lucia, and today we are going to be talking about what we are no longer explaining. But before we begin, I want to gently share that this episode is based on lived experience and reflection. Nothing here is advice or instruction. It's simply an honest conversation meant to offer perspective. Please listen in a way that feels supportive to you. Thanks everyone for joining me again. I'm really grateful that you are here. This episode isn't about making statements or drawing attention. It's about noticing something subtle, a quiet shift that many of us feel as we grow, especially toward the end of the year. There comes a point where explaining ourselves starts to feel heavy. Not because we're angry, not because we don't care, but because something inside us has settled. And when that happens, clarity becomes quieter. Most people don't over-explain because they want attention. They do it because at some point in their life, being misunderstood was unsafe. So we learn to clarify, to justify, to soften our words, to give context, to make sure no one felt uncomfortable, even when we were. Many of us grew up needing to explain our emotions, or we were told we were too sensitive, or we became the caretaker, the mediator, the fixer. Explaining became a survival skill, and there's no shame in that. But growth invites us to ask a gentle question. Is this still serving us now? There's an important difference between explaining and communicating. Communication is mutual. It allows space for curiosity and understanding. Explaining is often one-sided, and it's usually driven by fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, and fear of being misunderstood. Communication feels grounding. Explaining feels draining. As we mature, we begin to notice which one we're doing and why. Sometimes explanations don't bring understanding. They just take energy. We explain boundaries to people who don't respect them. We explain healing to people who aren't curious. We explain silence to people who feel entitled to access. And eventually, the body responds. We feel tight. We feel fatigued. That subtle feeling of, I don't want to do this anymore. Those are signs, not failures. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're not attacks. They're just guidelines. And people who respect you rarely ask you to explain them. When someone pushes for justification, it's often because they're uncomfortable with the boundary that you're setting, not because it's unclear. Clarity does not need defending. Healing doesn't need updates. It doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't need approval. Sometimes healing looks like change. Sometimes it looks like quiet. And sometimes it looks like just stepping back a bit. And none of that requires an explanation. Rest isn't something to earn. It's a response to living. Intuition often speaks before logic catches up. Trusting, it doesn't need permission. And silence, real silence, isn't avoidance. It's often regulation, integration, and clarity. There's a difference between disappearing out of fear and choosing quiet out of self-respect. Not everyone will understand your choices. That doesn't mean you made the wrong ones. Growth doesn't require consensus. Being misunderstood is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous. And learning to tolerate that discomfort is part of emotional maturity. Let's talk about privacy. Privacy is not secrecy. Privacy is discernment. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everyone needs access. Some things are meant to be lived quietly. Protecting your inner world is not selfish. It is wise. Early healing can be loud. It wants to be seen. It wants validation. Mature healing integrates. It softens. It becomes embodied. Many of us are reaching a stage where peace matters more than being right. Now, how do you know when an explanation is no longer needed? Here are a few gentle indicators. You feel drained afterward. You're repeating yourself. The explanation changes nothing. Your body tightens. You feel the urge to over-justify. These aren't signs of failure. They're signs of growth. If you're somewhere safe, take a breath and just notice. Where are you explaining out of habit? What feels heavy to justify? And what part of your life wants quiet instead of explanation? No fixing, just noticing. As the year closes, many of us are naturally simplifying, and I'm finding that with more and more people. More and more people just want peace. More and more people no longer want negativity in their life. They are refraining from hanging out with the wrong people, people who are draining them. And this is not because we're giving up, but because we're refining. Less noise, less explanation, with more alignment. This isn't withdrawal. It's an integration. This season isn't asking us to announce our growth. It's asking us to live it. But before we close, I want to share something softly. This conversation today is really about quiet clarity, about learning what no longer needs explanation. The next episode builds on that, but from a different place. On December 29th, I'll be sharing a deeper conversation about how this past year has affected us. The ways we've been hurt, the ways we've grown, and the responsibility we carry as we move forward into a new year. It's not about blame. It's about awareness. I'll also be talking about a connection that reminded me why speaking up still matters, especially for those who don't have a voice of their own. That conversation shifted something in me, and it feels important to share it honestly. If today's episode resonated with you, I invite you to come back on December 29th, not for answers, but for reflection, connection, and perspective as we step into what's next. Thank you for walking through this season with me. Until then.